Charles A Lindbergh became the embodiment of American courage, became a symbol of moral drift in the 1930s. His 1927 solo flight across the Atlantic made him a national saint. Millions lined streets, schools dismissed classes, Congress gave him medals. Yet fame turned to political weight just as Europe began to burn. After touring Nazi Germany in 1936 and 1938, he marveled at its discipline and industry. The regime flattered him with a medal from Hermann Göring. American headlines soon showed their hero smiling beside swastikas. Lindbergh insisted he only admired aviation, but his speeches told another story. As a leader of the America First Committee, he preached neutrality and warned that Jewish influence in the press and government were dragging the U.S. toward war. That echo of Nazi propaganda destroyed his reputation overnight. After Pearl Harbor, he volunteered to fly combat missions in the Pacific, performing bravely, yet public trust never returned. His case remains a study in how adoration and fear can make even a hero forget the difference between caution and complicity.
Henry Ford, born 1863 on a Michigan farm, reinvented modern life with the Model T and the moving assembly line. But the man who put the world on wheels also fueled one of its ugliest prejudices. Through his newspaper, the Dearborn Independent, Ford published a series of anti-Jewish articles between 1920 and 1927, later bound as the International Jew. Translated into multiple languages, they claimed Jewish bankers and media controlled the world. Adolf Hitler read and praised them, calling Ford "my inspiration." In 1938, Nazi officials awarded him the Grand Cross of the German Eagle, the party's highest honor for foreigners. Ford publicly accepted it. His U.S. factories did business with German subsidiaries until wartime laws closed the connection. Under pressure, he finally apologized in 1942, saying he never authorized the hate his paper spread. But the damage lingered. Ford's legacy is now inseparable from this stain, proof that industrial genius doesn't shield anyone from moral blindness. He showed how influence, when guided by paranoia, can build empires on one hand and feed extremism on the other.
Father Charles Coughlin, a Catholic priest from Michigan, wielded a microphone like a weapon. During the Depression, his Sunday radio sermons reached 30 million listeners, blending faith, anger, and national pride. At first, he defended President Roosevelt's New Deal, but soon claimed that financial elites and Jewish bankers in particular had enslaved working Americans. By 1938, his magazine Social Justice reprinted speeches straight from Nazi Germany, including sections of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. He praised Hitler's stand against communism while condemning international financiers. When war loomed, he demanded America stay neutral, calling intervention a Jewish conspiracy. At his rallies, swastikas mingled with crucifixes. After public outrage and Vatican pressure, the post office revoked his mailing permit and radio networks dropped his program. Coughlin retreated quietly to parish work, dying in 1979 without ever renouncing his views. He remains a cautionary figure, the voice that proved mass media can sanctify hate when charisma outruns conscience.
The German American Bund in the late 1930s, while most of Europe warned of Hitler's danger, the German American Bund tried to sell his ideology on U.S. soil. It began in 1936 under the leadership of Fritz Kuhn, a German-born naturalized citizen who called himself the American Führer. At its height, the Bund claimed nearly 25,000 members and hundreds of youth camps, complete with uniforms, drum corps, and flag-raising rituals echoing Nazi Germany. Its most infamous event came on February 20th, 1939, at Madison Square Garden. 20,000 supporters saluted under a giant portrait of George Washington, flanked by swastikas. Outside, thousands of protesters clashed with police. Kuhn preached 100% Americanism while ranting against Jews and communists, promising to keep America pure. Within a year, his corruption and violence exposed the movement's rot. Kuhn was jailed for embezzling Bund funds, and after Pearl Harbor, the organization was outlawed. Its assets were seized, leaders arrested, camps dismantled. The Bund vanished as quickly as it rose, leaving behind chilling photographs that proved Nazi ideology could find applause even under red, white, and blue banners.
William Dudley Pelley started as a Hollywood screenwriter in the 1920s, writing for stars like Lon Chaney. But after the stock market crash, he reinvented himself as mystic and messenger, claiming an out-of-body experience had revealed to him a divine mission to save Christian America from what he called alien forces. In 1933, he founded the Silver Legion of America, or Silver Shirts, a paramilitary group modeled directly on Hitler's brown shirts. They marched in silver uniforms, gave stiff arm salutes, and preached anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Pelley wrote pamphlets praising Hitler, denouncing Roosevelt, and urging Americans to purge foreign influences. By 1940, he had tens of thousands of followers and short-lived political parties like the Christian Party of America. When war came, the government cracked down, his headquarters searched, his publications banned. In 1942, Pelley was convicted of sedition and served nearly 8 years in prison. After his release, he resurfaced as a spiritualist author talking about UFOs and reincarnation, but never renounced his fascist past. Pelley's rise and fall illustrate how mystical language and patriotism mixed with fear can disguise extremism as enlightenment until reality calls it by its true name.
George Sylvester Viereck. Born in Germany in 1884 and moved to the United States as a child, where he became a poet, journalist, and political chameleon. During World War I, he worked as a propagandist for the German Empire, and by the 1930s, he was doing the same for Hitler's Germany. Smooth, articulate, and utterly without shame, Viereck cultivated senators and congressmen to spread Nazi talking points on the floors of Congress itself. He paid U.S. Representative Hamilton Fish III to use his mailing privileges to circulate glossy Nazi magazines and speeches disguised as official mail, reaching hundreds of thousands of homes for free. As the FBI uncovered his network, Viereck admitted he worked under Berlin's direction. In 1942, he was convicted under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, sentenced to prison, and stripped of his platforms. After release, he retreated into minor publishing, his poetic career long dead. Viereck's charm and intelligence made him one of the most dangerous propagandists of his era, proof that influence doesn't always shout. Sometimes it speaks in poetry.
Fritz Kuhn, a German chemical engineer who fought in World War I, immigrated to the U.S. in 1928 and wasted no time turning admiration for Hitler into a movement. By the mid-1930s, he led the German American Bund, calling himself the Führer of the American people. Charismatic in a coarse way, he staged uniformed rallies, youth camps, and military drills. In 1939, inside Madison Square Garden, 20,000 people saluted beneath swastikas alongside portraits of George Washington as Kuhn shouted, "Stop Jewish domination of Christian America." It was one of the most disturbing public spectacles in American history. Within months, state and federal investigations revealed massive embezzlement. Kuhn was convicted, sent to Sing Sing prison, and stripped of U.S. citizenship. After World War II, he was deported to Germany, where he died in obscurity in 1951. Kuhn's rise shows that extremist theater can thrive under the banner of patriotism until accountability cuts the spotlight.
Charles Edward Coughlin's followers wasn't just broadcasts, it became a nationwide engine of radicalization. By 1938, his followers numbered in the millions, organized through parish groups, mailing lists, and informal militias like the Christian Front. Members held rallies combining Catholic imagery with calls to purge Jewish communism. Some stockpiled rifles and anti-Semitic pamphlets. In 1940, federal agents arrested 17 Christian Front members in New York for plotting to steal weapons and attack Jewish neighborhoods. They were acquitted, but the evidence, bomb manuals, rally flyers, German propaganda, stunned the country. Many everyday supporters weren't violent. They saw themselves as defending faith during hard times. Yet their anger, fed weekly through radio sermons, proved how easily fear can turn congregations into crusades. After Coughlin's silencing in 1942, the movement dissolved, but its style of populist religious broadcasting lived on, influencing future political talk radio. Coughlin's followers remind us that hate doesn't always hide in shadows. Sometimes it fills pews, convinced it's serving heaven while echoing hell.
Isolationist politicians in Congress. In the late 1930s, a powerful isolationist bloc in Congress believed entering another European war would destroy the United States. Their slogan was America First. It wasn't inherently fascist, but Nazi diplomats quietly celebrated how closely it aligned with their agenda. Leading voices included Senator Gerald P. Nye of North Dakota, who ran hearings blaming arms dealers for World War I. Senator Burton K. Wheeler of Montana, who co-founded the America First Committee, and Representative Hamilton Fish III of New York, whose office circulated hundreds of thousands of German-authored pamphlets through Congress's free mail service, courtesy of propagandist George Sylvester Viereck. Their intent was national self-protection, but their speeches often mirrored Nazi talking points, casting Britain and the Jews as warmongers and Hitler as a defensive reformer. After Pearl Harbor, most of them voted instantly for war and spent the rest of their careers insisting they'd only meant to spare young Americans another tragedy. Yet their story shows how patriotism wrapped in fear can end up serving the very power it condemns.
Corporate interests trading with Germany. Before America's full entry into World War II, business ties to Germany ran deep. Some companies maintained them even as aggression rose. Legally at first, morally far less so. IBM operated through its German subsidiary Diomag, leasing punch card systems that organized payrolls, rail records, and, chillingly, population data later used by Nazi bureaucracy. Standard Oil shared patents on synthetic gasoline with IG Farben. Ford Motor Company kept ownership of Ford Werke AG. General Motors, through Opel, provided truck parts to the German army. Several U.S. banks, including Chase and National City, managed German accounts until Roosevelt's 1941 embargo cut them off. None of these were simple cases of treason. They were capitalism without conscience, profits that ignored politics until politics turned genocidal. Congressional increase after the war rewrote compliance laws on foreign business, but the lesson endured. Money without morality can fuel more than machines. It can fuel monsters.
Press and publishers spreading pro-Nazi propaganda. Propaganda doesn't need tanks. It needs paper, microphones, and fear. In 1930s America, that combination found several willing messengers. Preacher Gerald L K Smith printed the cross and the flag, blending scripture with fascist imagery. Activist Elizabeth Dilling issued directories accusing teachers, unions, and clergy of being communist or Jewish conspirators. Media baron William Griffin's American Gentile newspaper reprinted Reich ministry materials. And through Father Coughlin's social justice, millions read translated Nazi speeches under the banner of Christian morality. Most readers didn't think of themselves as pro-Hitler. They thought they were patriotic, cleaning corruption from America. But each article eroded trust in democracy and normalized contempt for minorities. By 1942, the government shut down several outlets under wartime sedition and mail fraud laws. Looking back, the presses seem small, their circulation fading, but in their time they reached millions, proving stories can wound a nation long before bombs fall.
Lanius Clander and the Silver Rangers. In the late 1930s, long before paramilitary imagery became politically radioactive, a Texas mechanic named Lanius A. Clander launched a group he called the Silver Rangers. Its members wore gray shirts, drilled with wooden rifles, and pledged Christian American loyalty while borrowing salutes and slogans straight from Hitler's movement. Across the Midwest and South, perhaps a few thousand men joined small posts that paraded on weekends. Clander wrapped his message in patriotism, warning that Jewish and communist forces were corrupting America. Newspapers that reported on him dubbed the group American Nazis in cowboy hats. By 1940, the FBI and local sheriffs were tracking their meetings, already linking them to the wider Christian Front and Silver Legion scene. After Pearl Harbor, arrests and sedition probes disbanded the Rangers entirely. Few Americans remember Klander's name today, but his story matters. He proved how imitation of extremism could bloom in plain sight when disguised as homegrown virtue. The Silver Rangers lasted only a few years, yet they illustrated how quickly economic fear and racial panic can dress themselves in uniforms.
Sympathetic celebrities and intellectuals. Before World War II, admiration for Nazi Germany occasionally came from America's elite. The world saw discipline, modern roads, and revived industry without yet seeing concentration camps. Charles Lindbergh praised Germany's aviation. Poet Ezra Pound broadcast fascist propaganda from Mussolini's Italy, railing against bankers and usurers, earning a U.S. treason charge. Writer Anne Morrow Lindbergh published The Wave of the Future, 1940, describing fascism as an inevitable political evolution. At the top levels of government, Joseph P. Kennedy Sr., America's ambassador to Britain and father of a future president, argued that democracy was finished and that Hitler would conquer Europe. Their comments, widely quoted later, reveal how charisma and order can dazzle even intelligent observers. When atrocities emerged, each reputation suffered. Pound institutionalized, the Lindberghs ostracized, Kennedy recalled in disgrace. Their misjudgments stands as a warning that intellect or success doesn't shield anyone from seduction by authoritarian efficiency hiding beneath flags and fanfare.
Post-war apologists and Holocaust deniers, after 1945, when photographs from liberation camps erased any doubt about Nazi crimes, a new kind of sympathizer appeared, the revisionist. Desperate to preserve old fascist worldviews, fringe writers claimed the Holocaust was exaggerated or staged. American Voices led much of it. University lecturer Austin J. App, who published The 6 Million Swindle, fascist ideologue Francis Parker Yockey, whose Imperium urged a return to Hitler-style pan-European unity, businessman Willis Carto, founder of the Liberty Lobby and Institute for Historical Review, and academics David Hogan and Arthur Butts, who supplied pseudoscientific studies denying gas chambers entirely. By the 1970s and 80s, they migrated to small presses and later to the internet, keeping Nazi myths alive in digital form. Their factual claims have been dismantled by historians, yet their persistence proves how propaganda mutates rather than dies. The post-war deniers remind us the last battle against fascism isn't fought with armies, it's fought with memory.